Here's a band from Cleveland, Ohio. What's this band called, Poundcake? This is a deep dive, so I'm going to give you a lot of rope here.
I was like, from Cleveland?
Yeah.
I couldn't even guess. I don't even know.
Have you ever heard of the name Joe Walsh?
No.
He's in the Eagles. Solo career, very successful.
So the Eagles are from Cleveland?
No. This was called James Gang. This was a band that he formed with a couple of other guys.
Yeah, nah.
And they're going to reunite. Joe Walsh has announced Vet Aid 2022.
This lineup's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's great. Vets Aid 2022, the newly reunited James Gang will perform one last time. That's Joe Walsh, it's Jimmy Fox, Dale Peters.
And
What about Tom
guest.
Chris? Tom Chris was in James Gang. I can bring him back?
Now, is Dave Grohl performing with James Gang?
I don't know. It says special guest Dave Grohl, as well as Nine Inch Nails, the Black Keys, the Breeders, Kim Deal, and whoever else is in that band. Drew Carey will be the host. November 13th at the Nationwide Arena in Columbus. The tickets will go on sale Friday. They start at $60. So there you go. You know, Farm
Where
Aid.
do they end?
Huh?
Where do they end? They start at 60.
Till question mark. Like a fun party. Till question mark. Of course, Joe Walsh went to Kent State University. Still considers Columbus to be his hometown. Nine Inch Nails is a Cleveland band. Of course, Black Keys are from Akron. Kim Deal, I think, is from Dayton, Ohio. So the Breeders consider themselves somewhat of an Ohio band.
Dave Grohl.
And, of course, Dave Grohl is from
Warren,
Ohio. So it's an all Buckeye State lineup there for Vets Aid 2022, which, of course, is a nonprofit that benefits veterans. I was going to say something else there, but I'm going to sit on that. This is the 6th annual festival that they'll do there for Vets Aid 2022. You know, Farm Aid is a much better known festival. Vets Aid does just as important work. And so James Gang will reunite for one final performance with Joe Walsh. And
I'm glad you said Vets Aid because I thought it was Vet Said.
Yeah.
Thought it was what?
Vet Said.
Vet Said?
Yeah.
Oh, the SAID. I got it right, yes. Uh-huh. Well, Vet Said was the first guy who, of course, during the Iraq War would, whatever.
You got it rolling?
No, I don't. So Joe Walsh and a whole bunch of other Ohio musical gargantuans there. Hey, Bill in Lakewood, hello.
Hey, Al, how you doing?
Billy, what's up?
Hate the show.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome back. Welcome back, Bill and Mary.
Yep.
Quick take on that Deshaun Watson. One, he got off way late if you're any kind of a observer looking in on football.
He got off light, you're saying?
Very late.
Yep.
If you're going to give him 6 games, fine him $1 million because he's got $230 million sitting there guaranteed.
Well, you don't get. I think Bill said you don't get game checks when you're suspended, correct?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Right, but what's 6 games over 7 years and $230 million? It's
right, and they structured his contract so he's only making $1 million this year in
right,
game checks.
So,
So,
I mean,
yeah,
the whole thing is way too late.
Well,
but here's the great question. Ready? So, is he suspended for 4 preseason games and 2 regular season games?
No, it's 6.
Or is he,
it's 6 regular
then,
season games.
But then, Bill, why not play him the 4 preseason games so he gets totally used to the offense?
Oh, they might. They might do that. I mean, it's one of the.
But isn't he technically suspended?
No, he
now,
can.
Because he
No,
doesn't have any contact.
They said that he can do the whole training camp thing. He can play in preseason games, and then week 1, for half the suspension, he can't have any contact with the team. The second half of the suspension, he can come back to the facility and work out with them and stuff like that. So it's a pretty light deal, especially considering Calvin Ridley got a full year suspension for betting $1,500 on the DraftKings app.
Michael Vick went to jail.
Yeah.
That's one of the most craziest. Those are great examples, Bill. And he's, whatever you want to call him, but then they have little kids, sign, here's my cleats.
Yeah.
And they start publishing those pictures. Like, come on, this guy. And Robert Kraft.
I mean, it's one of those things where it is a he said, she said situation, and there's not enough evidence to convict him of any crime or any any misdoing.
True.
So he got away with it, and he also did things to make sure that there wasn't a lot of evidence, considering he would bring his own towels and things like that.
Yeah,
so,
the guy left so much DNA.
Wow.
I mean, listen, you can't discount the DNA evidence.
Yeah, but when you take it with you.
You can't take it all with you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Bill. I appreciate the call, man.
Thank you.
Thank you, pal. There's Bill. Thank you. There's Bill out in Lakewood. If you listen to our show on iHeartRadio, tell me where. I was in Jersey for the week on the Jersey Shore. I know we hear from Bill in South Jersey all the time. Eric in Hillside, New Jersey, said he met Mary.
Yes, he was so sweet.
So he's the new bureau chief.
So Eric, I had my last show of the week in New York was Saturday night at Comedians You Should Know, which is like one of the bigger independent shows. They had a Chicago branch, which is actually where they started, and now they have them in New York and LA as well. So it was my last show of the week, and it was great. It was super fun, great room. And then after the show, this guy comes up to me, and he was like kind of, like waiting around. And I was like, oh, hey, what's going on? He's like, oh, great show, yada, yada. And then he like did that little look away, and he goes, hate the show. And I was like, oh, you came from, Alan Cox Show. And
he came all the way from Newark.
He did. He came from Jersey.
I would sit in Newark forever.
Yeah.
He came from Jersey all the way into Brooklyn to see the show and hang out, and we took a picture.
He spent almost 1 hour in the car, or did he take the train?
I don't know.
I was going to say,
you can take the path from Newark and get there pretty quick.
Yeah, I didn't know. For someone who has never been to New York or like the East Coast in general.
Oh, you must go.
I want
love
to.
that city,
I got an invitation. My friend wants to take me, and then I'll meet up like downtown in Chelsea and like go to all the hot spots. But I don't. That's one thing I'm nervous about is like the traveling. And one doesn't just get your car and drive into New York City.
Well,
do you?
can.
You can.
Yeah,
Just
I
parking.
Yeah.
And parking's just a pain in the ass.
You're never going to believe
but-
this. There are a lot of cars there.
I understand there's a lot of cars.
When you
cars
go, you'll
there.
see all kinds of cars.
But locals is what I'm saying. They're the ones that, because don't they have to have a parking garage and then walk to their house?
There's all kinds of stuff. There's street park. Every single street is lined with cars and parking garages, and you can't go 20 feet without getting to a parking garage.
You can also fly there for. I mean, it's better to just fly there, I think.
Well, when I got there, I drove, but because I booked it too short notice. I was only 2 weeks out, so I was like, I cannot afford $1,000 flight to New York. But taking the subway is not as it's intimidating, but it's really not that bad,
hard.
especially with technology now, because I can literally just put in the address in my phone, and Apple or Google Maps will tell you exactly what train to get on, exactly what stop to get off at, where to switch, what platform to be on.
It's really idiot-proof now. Back in the day,
It
you were
really
really
is.
taking your life in your hands, getting on the right trains.
Yeah, well, and also opening up like a train map on like that.
A physical map.
Yeah, like a physical map, and then people are like,
Oh, you don't want to do that.
yeah, that's who we rob.
Steal
That's
his money.
person. Yeah,
You
we're
wanted
gonna rob that guy.
crib notes on your hand or something.
Yeah, so the week was great. Honestly, I love every time I go to. It's only the second time, but when I go there, I'm like, God, I love this city. There's just so much to do, and it's got like such an electric vibe. And it's dirty and it smells bad, and it feels like you're walking around in somebody's mouth. But it was just so.
Seriously, it's just humid. It's
Gross.
like
So
it's a
humid.
punch in the face when you walk outside.
It's a great-
super disgusting. That in
Spring
that
and
sense,
fall are incredible.
Yes.
Winter and summer are a little tough in New York.
It was like it didn't get below like 78 degrees even at night. So
yeah.
it was super hot, 100% humidity every day. So
Yep.
you're just sweating. You walk outside and you're dripping sweat. It was that part was pretty gross.
We had a balcony off our room. We were staying in my wife's stepmother's family's house on the Jersey Shore on Normandy Beach, which is in a town called Lavalette, which the street that they're on was pretty much, there's no house on their street older than 10 years because they all got washed out from Sandy.
Oh, wow.
So all of the houses are like brand new. So it's old money, super wealthy people who not only had these houses to begin with, but had the insurance and the money and everything else to rebuild them. And the beach is eroding because, who knows how much longer they've got. But we had a balcony off of we were in a house with a bunch of other family and friends, and we were up at the very, very top. And we had a balcony off of our bedroom. And I'd walk out in the middle of the night, if I got up to take whiz or something.
Yeah.
I'd walk out of the balcony. It was like 85 degrees.
Dude, and it
Even on the
feels
shore,
it.
we were literally like we were behind the houses on the water, so
Yeah.
we were right there.
Yeah.
It was just
getting
very, very humid.
It feels like a mister at Cedar Point is always on you. It's just hot, wet air. Like a fan doesn't do you any good. It's just moving.
Hot, wet air.
It really is. But yeah, the shows were awesome.
So Poundcake, when you go, make sure that you take one of those little things you get at Five Below, the little handheld fans
Yeah.
with the foam blades. Just make sure that you hold that in front of your face as you're walking around.
Will do.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Shows were so great. I only bombed one night, and I bombed hard. I did not do well. It was like a really trendy spot in Brooklyn, and I didn't pick the right set. I did material. These kids were like no joke. It was like a black box theater, so you didn't have to be 21 to get in. It was 18 and over. So I did jokes about like being a stepmom and gambling, and I'm like, oh,
why did you do that?
I'm an idiot. I don't know. The night before, I was in Gotham Comedy Club.
You're
so,
like, hello, fellow kids.
dude, that's exactly what it was, because I just did the same set that I did the night before, because it was like, okay, 15 minutes. This is what my 15 minutes is. And then like about 3 minutes in, I was like, oh, I should switch gears. And then I just didn't switch gears. I knew I was about
I
like,
should
whatever.
switch gears. I
Yeah.
didn't.
Oh, they don't get it, so whatever. But the big problem.
Now, did somebody else go up and like murder with like?
No.
Okay, so
This
it's not
crowd
like,
wasn't really laughing at anything,
So it's
and
not
I
like-
picked the wrong jokes.
It's not like a TikToker went up after you and was just like, "Boy, these millennials,
right.
they're the new boomers
These
or something."
old
Yeah.
people. No, nobody really did well at that show. But that was one of 3 shows that I did where there was no air conditioning. So you're inside a black box theater with no air conditioning, no windows, no doors. Like one door in and out, and that's it.
Everyone's irritable.
So
Yeah,
that's the
that
other
also
thing.
doesn't make
Everybody's
for a
so
good
Comedy show.
It's hot. You're tired.
Make us laugh.
I did one that was in between. It was in the alleyway between a barbecue joint and a junkyard. And I was like, dude, are there no zoning laws in this?
So on one side, you're getting dog farts, and then the other side, you're getting barbecue steam.
And so it was hot there. And then another one was in like the back room of a pizza shop. So it was hot there. So the crowds weren't super electric. They weren't awesome, but it was still really fun. And even the night that I bombed, I felt like crap. And I was like, whatever. I should have known better. This is 100% my fault. I'm not going to blame it on the audience. Nothing like that. But then I'm in New York City. So like I just typed into my phone. I just typed in like live blues New York City. And so I went to this blues club in Manhattan and, sat and watched this guy, Jack something. He used to.
Oh, he's good.
He's
McCrack?
so good. Jack McCrack, yes.
Niehoff?
He used to. He toured with the Allman Brothers for like 20 years. So it was his band that was playing there. So it was great. And then I was right around the corner from the Comedy Cellar. So I went and watched a bunch of my friends crush at the Comedy Cellar. So it was like, even though I bombed, because of the way the city is, I still had an awesome night,
Sell for someone who has never been there, sell the city to me. Like, what would be your
Hey,
favorite?
Mary, sell New York City to Poundcake.
Right. Literally, the best way I could say, anything you want to do at any moment, you can do it.
Okay.
No matter what it is.
Poundcake, they say it's the city that rarely naps.
Was it Jack Pearson?
I probably
No.
wouldn't like it then.
No, I don't remember his name, but it was fantastic. But yeah, that was the thing, is that it's like, oh, do you want this type of food? You can get it. Do you want ice cream at 3 a.m? You want vegan ice cream at 3 a.m? You can get it. It doesn't matter. Whatever you cook up, it's there and it's accessible. And you can, if you want to just take a train ride a half hour, you can do anything you want to do. It's like amazing.
I had a roommate in college. He was from Jersey City, and he had friends that had a little bit of money. And he would tell me about his friends banging New Year's Eve party where everyone would be on this guy's balcony and watch the city. Like you could see the skyline from his backyard. And he this is the same guy that had Madonna come to his high school and sing for like their fall play.
Homecoming?
Whatever it was, but Madonna came to a school and sang.
It was like a Virgin the musical that they put on, and she was a surprise guest.
He told me about
Jersey City now has the highest rents in the entire United States.
Oh, wow.
Because it's all. Well, I was talking to some. I
It's all
mentioned
people
this.
going to New York. Yeah.
No. It's all Chinese money now. So the average rent in Jersey City is $5,500 a month.
That's crazy.
That's the highest.
I remember when I was looking to move to New York, it was between Queens and Jersey City, and we decided on a place in Queens, but it was like Jersey City was dirt cheap. And this is 15 years ago, so
Yeah.
it's not that long ago. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying it was, for living that close to New York City, you could get a place like 2 bedrooms for like $900 to $1,200.
It's around 2-bedroom is like low end. You're talking like $2,500 now. Because I was on Zillow almost the entire time. But so when my sister and I went on vacation in October and we went to the Redwoods, we stayed at this bed and breakfast, this really nice bed and breakfast. That was like our treat ourselves, right?
This is where they give you a bed and then they give you breakfast.
Actually, no bed and dinner.
The
Can
bed's
they
made
give
of
you
breakfast.
can they give you breakfast in bed?
It was a bed of breakfast.
It was a bed of breakfast. That's right.
But we met this couple, this nice old retired couple, and we're chatting with them at breakfast the one day, and they're like, "Oh, we're from New York City," and we exchanged phone numbers, and this was October of 2021, and they did that whole if you're ever in the city, hit me up, So I did. I texted the lady, and I was like,
you're not supposed to do that. They
Well,
don't
I don't
really
care.
They don't really mean that. They're being nice.
and we didn't know much about them. We were being cordial at breakfast, and I texted her, and I was like, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me. I'm in town."
I slept in your bed. I ate your breakfast. Both were on the sign.
Well, she was very excited. She was like, "Oh my God, I was hoping you would, get in contact with me." She was like, "Unfortunately, we're busy this week, but if you can come up to our neighborhood, we'll take you out to lunch." I was like, "Perfect." So she sent me like this restaurant, was like, "Meet us here at 12:30. We have a reservation." It was on the Upper West Side. And now I don't know anything about where I am in New York City, but Upper West Side, second most rich neighborhood
Yep.
to like Upper East Side. And as I'm looking at the menu on the train there, the cheapest thing on the menu was a
But that's
$14.
such an Ohio thing to do,
Oh,
too.
yeah.
To be like, well, let's see the menu. Not only because I want to know what I want, I got to see
What I
the
can
pro-
afford.
Yeah.
Well, $14 side of fruit was the cheapest thing on the menu.
You're lucky the menu had prices. A lot of them don't.
That was the other thing is that I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh man, like this is going to wipe out most of my food budget for this
Excuse
week.
me, how much is the side of fruit? Could I get a side of fruit? Would
Just
that be
half the side of
$7?
fruit.
Just a couple of your mealiest cantaloupe cubes.
You wouldn't happen to sell your bagels by the quarter.
I just don't like a lot of bread. It's not about price. But yeah, and that was like having brunch with them. So they're two. My eggs Benedict cost $38.
Oh my God.
Dude, they were two people. I didn't know this until we were having brunch. They both worked on Wall Street in like the late 70s. So they met each other working at different like stock trading firms, and then both like went through the boom together, never had any kids.
Well, through the 80s.
Through
yeah.
the 80s,
Yeah,
like the whole rise of
Yeah.
the stock exchange. So as they're talking to me, I'm realizing I'm like, these are probably the richest people I have ever sat down with. Like, and I didn't know anything, we just met at a bed and breakfast, but the way that they're describing their lives to me, I'm like, this is a just completely unfathomable lifestyle that these two people live. Like, and they picked up the check, but
Even if you're making regular money, that's the kind of life you can live when you don't have kids.
right. But it was just like,
Just don't procreate.
she was telling me about their apartment and how it's like they've lived there forever, and they have a terrace that opens up to Central Park, and how she has private flute lessons 3 times a week.
See,
and like,
this is why she wanted to take you guys to lunch, because all of her friends are exactly like her, and her stories aren't cool to them.
oh, probably.
To you,
Yeah, like they're like,
she's
oh, you got
blowing
that
your
budget
mind.
ass flute teacher.
Oh, she only charges $5,000 an hour, but yeah.
She only teaches the top half of the flute.
Yeah,
We couldn't afford the entire flute.
I guess someone couldn't afford clarinet lessons.
Interesting. Woodwinds over here. No, but they were so sweet, and I think maybe that's why they were so excited. But I figured they were just an old retired couple who hated each other and were
That might have something to do with it,
yeah.
too.
They don't have kids or anything, so
The
they were
terrace
just
gets way less exciting when it's just the two of you. They're like, when we were young, not having kids sounded like a good idea. Now that we're old,
It's just us.
Just
Just
ask them to
us.
adopt you.
Well, we were
Just
talking.
be like, how would you like to invest in Mary Santora?
The more that I
for
was
just dollars a day, you can fund a comedian in Cleveland, Ohio.
the more I was talking to them, the more I realized, like, dude, these people are loaded. And then I text my sister a picture of the three of us. It's like, they send their love, yada, yada. And then I was like, by the way, they are like billionaires and they didn't give me any money. And my sister was like, those bitches. Like, how dare they not hand you 10 grand at breakfast? But it was really cool. And it was just an eye-opening experience to see in a place like New York that there are, and I know that's everywhere, but there are people who are just truly living an entirely different life than you
They
can
had
even.
a terrace that opened up to Central Park.
I know, that's what I mean.
The minimum apartment to get something, and because I explore Zillow a lot too, the minimum apartment anywhere near Central Park is like $30 million.
Yeah, dude, it's and they've lived there forever. They were talking about how when
I
they
don't think that's the minimum, but
To buy?
I don't know if they bought it, but the rent in that area can be like $20,000 a month.
even
like,
to buy.
I bet they own it. If they had that kind of money.
And they've lived there for that long.
Yeah.
If they lived there forever, they bought it.
Yeah.
Sure.
It was cool, though. It was cool to have that experience and then go back and make myself a peanut butter and jelly the next day.
Well, one
You
of
know?
Gwen's best friends from like kindergarten has lived in Manhattan for a long, long time. And so we hooked up with them midweek. We all went out to Seaside Heights. That's when I was sending you guys all the Jersey Shore, like meatball, because I didn't realize that was the store. We walked in and it was all this stuff. And Gwen goes, well, this is the store. And they lived up there. And the guy who owns a place is behind the counter. I go, oh, I get it. Blah, blah, blah. But we're walking around with him and his girlfriend. They live, when we went to see them last Christmas to visit them, he was living by himself on the Lower East Side in like a one-bedroom place. And he was paying, I think, $2,600 a month. He and his girlfriend moved in together because the landlord raised his rent $900.
Dude.
So they moved in together, but normally when you move in with somebody, like you and Brian, you're saving some money.
Right.
They basically just got a place. They moved all the way to the Upper West Side, but they got a place where they're each paying what they were paying before.
Yeah.
So they're like, we're not paying more, but
it's
we're not
nicer.
saving. Well, we're
Yeah.
not saving any money.
Right.
Like they got a little bit of a bigger place, but they're like, but if the rent on the place we're at now goes up just a little bit, like
Yeah.
we're gonna find another place. And,
It's
you know,
not a place where you can start a family. Like that's not
No.
sustainable.
That
well, it depends on
is-
how much money you've got.
how much money you've got and what part of the city you live in.
Yeah,
'Cause
that's
they're-
true of any place.
My girlfriend that I stayed with, her and her husband are both unioned artists that paint sets for TV shows. So they kind of, for a season at a time, get sent to a different part of the city to work. So, like, they'll be on True Bloods for one season, and then they'll be on whatever for the next season or whatever. And so they make really good money. They live in Astoria. So they have, like, a little bit of green space. They live right next to Astoria Park. They have, like, a decent-sized two-bedroom apartment. Like, they could have a kid and still have access to, like, the park has a pool and a playground and all that kind of stuff. So, like, depending on where you are, you can make it work, you know?
I live near that park. I'm sure it's nicer now than when I lived there.
It's gorgeous
Yeah,
now.
okay, because when I lived there, comics lived in Astoria just because it was the cheapest place to live, basically.
Oh, no.
And it was just apartments and then taxi stations, like just garages everywhere.
Oh, no.
And I took my dog on a walk to the park, and it was so gross.
No, it's really,
I'm
really
sure
nice.
it's nice now.
I
but
just
it
like the
was-
mental image of
yeah.
Mary at this brunch with these people, and they're just explaining their terrace, and she goes, I sell pictures of my feet
You want to buy
to
one?
strangers. How do you like that? Cha-ching.
And he's like, "Oh, I'm actually a customer."
Nice to meet you. I'm thislittle.piggy145 at gmail.com. I got to take a break. If you want to text for anything, 35192. You can listen wherever you are on the iHeartRadio app. And we'll be back after these.